Welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us late on a Friday night. Was waiting for the spring training game for the Texas Rangers to end. Was watching that one live on Victory Plus on the Rangers Sports Network. That was fantastic to be able to watch spring training baseball. Not so fantastic on the field. Spring training results largely don't matter. The main thing you're really looking for is everybody to get to the start of the season healthy. And sadly, that goal was not accomplished today. In case you guys just missed the news, Jon Gray was struck by a 106-mile-an-hour line drive off the bat directly on his pitching hand. It hit him in the back of the hand and was immediately pulled from the game. Gray didn't make any gesture to show that he was significantly injured, frustrated, or anything by it. They were hoping against hope that maybe it was just a glancing blow, but obviously not. He has suffered a broken right wrist. Sounds like it is displaced, unlike Charlie Condon, a non-displaced wrist fracture for the Colorado Rockies. That was announced earlier today by the Rockies organization. He will miss at least 6 weeks. So if you're looking for kind of a timetable here on when Jon Gray could be back, I would look at minimum 2 months before he's back in a Texas Rangers uniform. Maybe you're looking at the longest, maybe 3 months, but I wouldn't expect it to be longer than that. He will be an all-star, right around that all-star break is when I would expect him at the very latest. So Jon Gray going to miss at least the month of April and the majority of May, if not the entirety of May. Hopefully he'll be back in June. That's kind of what I'm hoping for as a Ranger fan. But either way, his spot in the rotation will need to be filled. Now, of course, we know Jack Leiter's had a nice spring training so far. The Rangers have plenty of bullpen options that they can go with. I'm really excited about a couple of them. They're on minor league deals right now that could actually break through with the big league roster. One is a former closer who the Texas Rangers had previously, Joe Barlow. He's been very good so far this spring. And Mark Church might finally get his chance at the big league level. However, the bigger issue here is how are they going to soak up the innings? Jon Gray was the one guy they were really counting on from 3, 4, 5 in that rotation to soak up significant innings this year. Now you're going to be without him for at least 2 months of the season. Can you count on the young pitchers that you're going to be putting in there, Leiter and Kumar Rocker, to soak up those innings? Sure, but you're hoping Kumar Rocker would finish the season around 125 innings. Leiter, maybe you could stretch him out a little further to 140, 150 on the high end, but you're not exactly expecting either one of those guys to reach 200 innings. That's a rare feat nowadays in Major League Baseball. But just to get 150 at this point, I think would be stretching it for both of those guys. So I think they're going to look outside the organization at some point this year. Does not have to be early. They have the depth right now to sustain it. They have the bullpen arms that they can call up to be able to fill in where they need to. And they can put Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter in that starting rotation. By the way, Cody Bradford, who is going to start the season in that fifth spot in that rotation, is going on the IL. He'll be back after a couple of weeks, though. Then they can go back with their initial plan of putting one of those guys, Rocker or Leiter, in that long relief role out of the bullpen. I do expect Leiter to be the guy that sticks around at the big league level because I think they're going to try to manage the innings for Kumar Rocker, but we'll have to see how this thing ultimately works out for the Texas Rangers. Just some tough news there. Of course, they could always go at the trade deadline or even earlier and try to bring in another innings-eating type of starter, someone they're very familiar with. One name who hasn't been traded yet so far that the Rangers have been connected to pretty much since the day they acquired him from the St. Louis Cardinals is Jordan Montgomery. Well, Jordan Montgomery, of course, had a terrible offseason last year, culminating in that rush deal that he signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks. Couldn't have gone worse for him there in Arizona. Comments from the owner and so forth. It's going to take probably 3/4 of that salary to be eaten by the Diamondbacks for a team to be willing to take that on. And for a team in Texas, they can only really take on about $6-ish million, maybe $5 million. They would have to get Arizona to eat a chunk of that deal. Now, there is the possibility that Ezekiel Duran could be a piece that would intrigue the Arizona Diamondbacks as kind of the ballast going back the other way. Duran seems like the guy that's on the short end of the stick as far as making this roster. Rangers look like they could actually take 3 outfielders for the center field spot to start the season. We're talking about Evan Carter, Leody Taveras, and Kevin Pillar. Up until today, Carter and Taveras were 0 for 14 against left-handed pitching. That tells you all you need to know about why they brought in Kevin Pillar to handle left-handed pitching. Good news today is that Leote finally got a hit against a lefty today. I heard Evan Carter also had a decent game in the B game that was on the backfields today as well. Jacob deGrom took the field for the Texas Rangers after he was scratched due to a stomach bug the other day. He threw 3 innings, about 40 pitches, was dominant as you'd expect in a minor league game. And then, of course, on the health front, Tyler Mahle. One thing I want to point out about MLB trade rumors, great source for information, but you just want to double check everything. They reference Tyler Mahle has not thrown a pitch since being injured anyway. He has since come back and pitched for the Texas Rangers. So just kind of cleaning that up, he will start the season in the Rangers rotation. A couple other news and notes I wanted to get into, but we'll start with all you guys here. Welcome in Rafe, Holly, Doc Ghost, Mark. Appreciate you guys joining us. Gray is cooked. Well, for the first couple of months. He looked like he was dealing, though, for the first 3 innings of today. Rest in peace, our rotation. I don't know. That seems a little bit premature. I think they'll be just fine. Bradford will be back in a couple of weeks. They have the depth to be able to sustain the injuries that they have right now. Now, say if they get into the season and Eovaldi, tweaks his elbow or needs to go on the IL for a couple of weeks. That's when your depth is really going to be stretched a little thin. And that's when they could really make a decision to bring in an outside arm, whether it be a couple of guys that they're familiar with already, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, etc. Lance Lynn does look like he's going to the Chicago Cubs. I'm not sure if that deal became official. I'll check on that here for you guys in just a second. But those would be a couple of names on the free agent side of things that they could look into. And then, of course, there's going to be no shortage of pitchers that are going to be designated for assignment once spring training is over. And so maybe they could have their choice of a couple of guys that they could pick off the bottom of a heap from somebody's roster to at least give them a couple of innings early in the season. I don't think they'll do that, though. I think they have plenty of relief options to go with right now, to where if they have to have a bullpen day to begin the season somewhere along those lines, they will do it. I mean, it is spring training. Teams have kind of stretched out a couple more players than they usually would during the season, so guys have more flexibility to go an extra inning here or there. Not saying that's the preferable option. Obviously, you'd love to have your starting 5 in there all season long, but you have to have depth. That's why Jack Leiter's there. That's why Kumar Rocker's there. That's why Adrian Hauser's there. They have some options to go to if need be. I saw that great injury. Geez, can't catch a break. Right there with you, Mark. Rocker and Leiter both fixing to be starters in the rotation. True. I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I think it's kind of good for them to kind of go from spring training, where they've been honing in their abilities, and immediately transition that onto the big league roster to where they're not having to amp themselves back up again to be in the big leagues. Now they have some time to kind of wrap their minds around what it will be like to start in the opening day roster for the Texas Rangers, something they will hopefully be there for the next decade plus. Rafe, Monty, you are again a Texas Ranger. That might very well happen here in the next couple of weeks here if the Rangers decide that this wrist fracture is going to be on the longer side of the recovery. Remember, Charlie Condon, the one I mentioned earlier today, has a non-displaced fracture from the Rockies. His timetable is at least 6 weeks. So with John Gray's being displaced because of the fracture and so forth, this is going to take at least 2 months. And then, of course, you're going to have to get his arm strength back up. He's not exactly going to be able to grip a baseball until that time. So you're probably going to be looking 6 weeks minimum just for recovery. And then building up that endurance once again in the rotation, you're probably going to be looking another 4 weeks. So you're looking probably between 2 to 3 months minimum for John Gray to be out of the rotation. Holly, they won't even go after him. They don't have the money to go after Montgomery, if that's what you're referring to. They need to be able to save some money here. They're trying to keep some options open for the trade deadline as well. They are looking at bringing in some closer help as well. I think they've got plenty of relief options. They're hoping one of those guys turns out to be their closer, but if things don't work out, they want to keep that flexibility to bring in a proven closer at that time. So they may have to exhaust that flexibility here early in the season if the injuries continue. Right now, I don't think they have to, but it's something that they're going to have to be mindful of as we go through the next few weeks here. Probably not for the headlines. Back in the day, we would have just got a... I don't know about that one. All right, let's see here. Clay Holmes gets opening day nod. Good for him. He's been pretty good so far. Well, you know what they say. No matter what, there's always an upside, Sports Network. Thank you, Hank. Appreciate you joining us. Is Monty really a Ranger? No, Hank, he is not. Nope. Let's see here. Jack and Kumar go to the show. It does look like it. And then to White Castle. Oh, man. Bradford is out for a while too, right? No, he's only out for about a week, maybe two. He will start the season on the injured list. They're being very, very cautious with him because of an elbow soreness issue. Anytime you hear an injury with a pitcher and it's the elbow, you want to be as cautious as possible. Got to wonder how many innings he's going to give you this year anyway. I wasn't counting on more than 125, though. I thought this Rangers rotation was going to need some innings out of that rotation, at some point here, and they might need them a little bit earlier than originally planned. All right, appreciate you guys joining us. Be sure to hit that like button. Got about 20 of you guys with us right now. Only got 4 likes on the video. Let's see if we can bump that number up a little bit here. But I do want to get into some of the other headlines of the day. We'll set aside the Texas Rangers discussion here for just a moment, and I do want to touch on the New York Yankees and their pursuit of Dylan Cease. They have been frothing at the mouth to bring in Dylan Cease since the moment Garrett Cole went down due to injury. Every single day, it has been reported they have reached out to A.J. Preller for the San Diego Padres, trying to pry him away. Now, part of the ask anyway, from outside teams looking to take advantage of the Yankees situation, has been starting pitcher Will Warren. So far, the Yankees have been resistant to that. At a certain point, rubber's going to meet the road here, and I think the Yankees are going to get a little bit desperate here. Do I think Dylan Cease is exactly a perfect fill-in for Garrett Cole? No. But I would say bringing him in is better than not having anything. I think they would be assured of a wild card spot. I still would have my doubts about them winning the division because I think Garrett Cole was that good for that rotation. I love the addition of Max Fried. I love the addition of Dylan Cease. But I think the loss of Juan Soto and the production he really would have given them really is going to negatively affect them as far as the 162 and as far as their ceiling once they get to the postseason as well. They don't have that top-end talent to go against somebody else's best and say, hey, best on best, we win. That argument that the Yankees could have made with Garrett Cole, with Juan Soto in the lineup, that's gone now. Now you're saying we have the better roster as a whole. We have Bellinger, we have Goldschmidt, we have better depth, and that's how we're going to win. During the 162-game season, that's just fine and dandy. Once you get to October, that's when the real test will happen. No idea if the decisions that they made this offseason are going to help them in the postseason. Right now, I will say during the 162 regular season, they should still be pretty productive if they still had Garrett Cole, but now they don't, and I'm not sure where they will finish as of yet. But Yankees definitely are very hot in pursuit of Dylan Cease. Sounds to me like they are trying to add some type of impact starting pitching, not necessarily back into the rotation starters like a Kyle Gibson. They may have to settle for that one, but they're definitely pursuing big-time starters first. I wonder if they pivot to Sandy Alcantara at some point, even though his price is a little bit higher. Because he's got 2 more years of control, maybe they'd be more willing to part with the prospects that it would take to be able to bring him in. But remember, the Marlins are looking for 20 years and younger prospects. Yankees don't really match up well with that, and they're looking for position players, not necessarily pitchers. Again, Yankees not a great fit there either. So they would have to loop in another team to get the pieces that the Marlins are looking for in trade. And it does sound like that the Marlins want to make sure Alcantara is right, show that he's healthy, boost that price up by the trade deadline, and then start a bidding war at the deadline. So Yankees definitely trying to push hard for an improvement for their rotation. Rangers losing a significant piece of their rotation, John Gray, for what looks like at least 2.5, 3 months at this point. We'll have to see if he comes back earlier, if he heals well, whatever the case may be. But either way, it does look like Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker are destined to be in that rotation on opening day. As far as how this rotation will likely be deployed, it does sound like they're not going to move DeGrom off of their plan for him right now, which is to start him 5th out of that rotation. They're trying to limit his innings throughout the year. They're going to make sure that plan stays in place. Why? Because of the injury risks that surround Jacob deGrom. They're not going to, speed up his timetable just because the other arms in their rotation have gone down. They want to make sure that horse is there at the end of the season. So I would expect Eovaldi to pitch Game 1. With John Gray out now, I wonder if that moves Tyler Mahle to Game 2. I think Kumar Rocker or Jack Leiter could be in discussion for 3 or 4. And then Game 5, whoever they, at that point, if they still have, I can't remember if they have an off day in between 4 and 5 anyway. They open the season to get the Red Sox, and I think they play, is it the Guardians or Reds somewhere in there right after that? But either way, if they have an opportunity to skip Jacob deGrom early in the season because of an off day, they might take advantage of that. Either way, Jacob deGrom will be the last one to start out of that group of 5. And then in a few weeks, that's when they will have Bradford back at that point. Rafe, have to wonder if Gray's injury could have a more permanent effect because of his throwing hand, like it shouldn't, but possible. Yes, there's probably going to take some time for him to get the feel of baseball back. And as a pitcher, I'm sure he's going to have to build up his strength in his hand again as well. Just kind of get the pressure that he wants, the feel of the baseball as far as like how he wants to spin the ball. For instance, the different grips that he's going to have to use. I'm sure he's going to be trying to grip a baseball the entire time he's injured, even though against doctor's orders, I'm sure he's still going to try to keep that force on the baseball, to keep that tactile nature in his hand. But you're still going to have to build up that arm once you're healthy again, and that's just going to take time. As far as a permanent side effect, I don't think they're in the risk of that. So I wouldn't worry too much about him, say, having this be a lingering issue in September, for instance, or side effects still bothering him at that point. Now, blisters could be a thing, but that's always a thing when you're getting ramped up in your delivery, ramped up in your throwing program, just like it is in spring training. He might be susceptible to those types of things, just normal wear and tear type of things, as you gear up and try to throttle up your rehab process. But as far as like long-term permanent effects of a broken wrist, that shouldn't be the problem there. All right, last thing I really wanted to get into tonight was some of the surprise teams that we could see in 2025. Now, for surprises, for me, this is going to be a team that either is going to be well above expectations from where they came entering the season. So, for instance, the Minnesota Twins, for me, are going to be one of my favorite surprise teams of the year. Kind of my dark horse, if you will. Everybody expects them to kind of flounder, sell off at the deadline, trade away Pablo Lopez, but they still have a pretty good roster. You saw that in our rankings when we did those earlier the past couple of weeks, how they still have a really productive lineup. Their top 3 in the rotation is really good, and they have a solid back end and middle relief options in that bullpen. Long relief left a little bit to be desired, but they could be a team that if they start the season hot, they're not necessarily going to add to this team, but they very well could be in contention for the AL Central crown. That would be a surprise team to me. Other teams that would be a surprise are the now favorites for the American League, the Texas Rangers. Why? Because they did not finish in the postseason last year. Of course, they have the World Series championship from a year or so ago. That's behind them as well. But they would loosely qualify for me. But I'm looking for real surprises. The Boston Red Sox are another team that could qualify as a team that did not finish in the postseason last year and very well should this season as well. But for me, I think the biggest surprise so far that I see in the American League is the Minnesota Twins. Because I do not expect them to be in contention for the American League Central, but they could be the one team that upsets my projections and everybody else's projections as well. Because I think they're a real sleeper out there. I don't think they have the talent that they need after the trade deadline. I do expect this team to be sold at some point. I think the off-the-field ownership questions are going to take its toll on the team, and I would expect them to try to maximize the return on a couple of their investments. Pablo Lopez, Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, Johan Duran, etc. It's a long list of pieces that they could trade away and really turn this thing around. They've got some young outfielders coming that are going to be there probably by the end of the year, beginning of next, and I would like to see them kind of turn the page over to that younger core of team. And so trade away Pablo Lopez, bring in a couple MLB-ready pieces that can be a part of that next contending team for the Twins, because right now they don't have the money to spend on free agents. They don't have money to bring in trade assets. They're having to get ownership approval just to bring in Harrison Pater, let alone Ty France. They're very limited financially. So if you're able to save them some money here, I think that would give you at least some flexibility with which to work to be able to make some moves this offseason and the next offseason thereafter. But to me, the Twins on the American League side are the easy surprise team there. On the National League side, some surprising teams that we could see. The Cincinnati Reds have done a nice job beefing up their bullpen. I think the rotation needs to give them some length, but they have the potential to really be a good one. I think the offense should be enough for them, but they've got to come through. But with the addition of Terry Francona, they could be a team that goes from out of the playoffs to catching a wild card run there as well. The NL East, I think all 3 teams have already projected to make the postseason. I don't really see the Marlins or Nationals being a surprise team. Nationals, if they get the young pieces to really click and click really well, they could finish maybe 5-6 games out of the wild card. I think that would be a surprise that they would finish that high in the wild card rankings. but that really sets the stage really well for them going into free agency next year as well. So keep an eye on the Washington Nationals and how they go through the year. You go to the NL West, and that's a division that's going to be dominated by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Diamondbacks are a really good team. Padres, as currently constructed, are still a really good team and are in that wild card hunt. But one team that could really surprise us would be the San Francisco Giants. I don't think anybody has them making the postseason right now. Love the addition of Adames. Love the addition of Verlander for them. Kind of solidifies this team as they head towards free agency next year. And then their window really opens up if they make the right decisions there. But hats off to what they were able to do, changing the narrative around that organization from the Farhan Zaidi tenure to now the Buster Posey era has begun there. Offense should be a little bit better. Pitching still is a little bit of a question mark for me. There are thoughts that maybe they could trade away some of their pieces out of the back end of that rotation or the back end of that bullpen. But if they catch fire, say we just saw this, 4 or 5 years ago with the Gabe Kapler managed team where they got to 107 wins. That was a team that had no business winning that many games, and we knew it. Everybody was projecting the Giants to be really good. I was telling you the entire time, no. That was a team that was older veterans that were all playing well above their career averages and their career highs. It was not going to replicate itself, and lo and behold, it didn't. They were not even close to making the wild card, and this could be the first time since then that they have a legitimate enough team to be in the wild card hunt, but they could be your surprise on the National League side as well. Rafe, my surprise would be the Royals, not for exceeding expectations, but I think they're going to hit a brick wall. Don't ask why. Just got a feeling. Well, we'll do the teams that might surprise us in the wrong direction tomorrow night. So we'll save that one for tomorrow. Mark, if Scherzer can stay healthy and Bichette has a bounce-back year, Jays could surprise. That's another one I kind of like as well. Do I think it's likely? No. I think Scherzer is going to be lights out for you, though. He looks very good so far in a Blue Jays uniform. And the one thing I worry about in your comment there, Mark, is I'm not sure how much proof is in the pudding in regards to Bo Bichette. Now, you expect the talent to really show through. He was Bobby Witt before Bobby Witt, and if he can reach that level of player again, obviously the Blue Jays should be in the wild card hunt. I don't think they'll necessarily be there for the division, but they could be there for the wild card. The more likely way this thing goes is that all the headlines that have already gone around Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are going to continue to weigh on this team. The decisions or inability to bring in any other top-flight talent besides Anthony Santander is really going to hurt them, I think, as well. We're going to get to the All-Star break, and everybody's going to be looking around and going, okay, Blue Jays, they're a good team. They have some talent, but they have a lot of assets they could trade away here at the deadline. They could recoup a lot for what they could trade away and get back for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Same thing for Max Scherzer. Same thing for a few other pieces that they could deal at the deadline. Say they're 2 games out at the All-Star break. You kind of leave it up to your team. If they go on a nice win streak, get into wild card positioning by the trade deadline, then you might stand pat or maybe make an addition. If they don't, if they're still 2 games back, or if they falter and fall even further behind, then you jettison everything you can off of this roster and go into a full rebuild, retool situation there in Toronto. But I'm with you there, Mark. If things break their way, they could very well be a surprise wild card team. I'm not prepared enough to say they could surprise and win the division. Tim, Clay Holmes will start the Mets for opening day, right? I did hear that one as well. He's had a very nice spring training for them, and the injuries there also help him get to that top spot as well. Rafe, Ozuna is ready to take Garcia's job. He is raking. I don't think that's quite the case. I do know Bochy and the company are really excited about his bat right now. He is raking in spring training. You're right about that one. But he's going to have a uphill road to climb here because, remember, you're still probably going to be starting the season with at least 3 outfielders not named Garcia and Langford on this big league club. Now, after the season, Garcia could very well find his way out of town. Langford, of course, looks like a superstar. Very well could be a top 10 player in the league by the time the year is done. In center, that's where the issues are going to come. If they can get one of the two to really show out, Carter or Tavares, the other one ultimately gets traded for some bullpen help or some additional starting pitching, something along those lines. And then Pilar, of course, is your left-handed hitting, or the right-hander in the lineup that handles left-handed pitching. There's not really a spot unless there's an injury at the big league level to Garcia or to Langford. But if there is, then maybe they bring him up. If there is an injury, though, to Garcia or to Langford, I think they'll still utilize the outfielders they would have on the big league roster, say Garcia pulls a hammy or whatever the case may be. Not hoping for it, obviously. Kind of fingers crossed, everything. Don't want to talk about injuries here. But say something does happen. Then you're probably looking, Tavares takes over there in center field. Carter moves over to right and takes the regular role over there for Garcia until he's healthy. Pilar is your fourth outfielder at that time. And then when they put Garcia on the IL, that's when they bring up another bullpen arm as well. That's usually how you'll see that thing work there. Pirates a wild card confirmed. I just don't think they have enough hitting. I thought this was an offseason where they should have really prioritized spending, $15 to $20 million to improve this offense, and instead they went cheap. They brought in Tommy Pham, they brought in a couple other small pieces, but nobody that I'm looking at going, hey, that's an aircraft carrier, or hey, that's a difference maker for them offensively. Now, Horowitz was a nice get. Pham is going to be a great fourth outfielder, but it sounds like they're going to be deploying him primarily as a starter. That's a miss for me. They needed more everyday support in that lineup. There, of course, could still go out there and bring in a Verdugo type of a player or make a trade or something along those lines. One trade I thought they should have made was making the trade for Nathaniel Lowe that the Nationals did. I thought he was a perfect contract for the Pirates to be able to take. Brings the experience as a World Series champion in there. Hell of a locker room clubhouse presence there. And could really get and mentor those young bats that the Pirates have coming. So I think that was a bit of a miss for me, and that's why I think I'm holding them out of my surprise teams for 2025. Well, the last one I want to talk about is the Chicago Cubs. They're a team that was expected to do big things last year. Craig Counsell and company were supposed to come in and change things around for them. Obviously, hasn't worked to the levels they were hoping for yet. And this could be their year where they go all in on 2025 and surprise us and make a nice run this year. They're another team that's in there for Dylan Cease, as well as a few other starting pitchers. They are looking to bring in some other talent. Remember that they are the team that has looked at bringing in Lance Lynn just in the last 24 hours as well. I would like that addition for them too, but I still think they need a true number one or a guy that can be a number one on somebody's rotation at the trade deadline. So do not rule out the Cubs from being a surprise team this year if they make the right additions at the trade deadline. They make the addition of Kyle Tucker, bring in Ryan Presley. They just need to finish that team off. We'll see how Matt Shaw really breaks through with the big league club. Rafe, if Jays are 15 games under 500, they go ahead and trade Vladdy? Guaranteed. I would say guaranteed if they knew he was leaving. If they were still talking about an extension, which does not sound like it's going to be the case, then maybe they might revisit that idea. And then he's trying to do that, not that, Walcott, Osuna, and the other guy, I forgot his name, but they should all be coming up around the same time. Definitely exciting to see. Osuna's just a touch older from what I remember, but Walcott will probably be at the big league level next year at some point. Maybe a September call-up this year, but I doubt it. Rafe, I saw the deal with Lynn and the Cubs was practically done, just yet to be announced for some reason. True, probably just getting his physical and making sure he's right, because he did lose so much weight. All of the medicals that any team in Major League Baseball would have had going into this offseason on Lance Lynn is going to have to be redone because of how much weight he lost. He lost about 30-something pounds, and that was a month ago. He may have lost even more. Willard, what about the Astros? Do you think the Astros going to do any trades? No, I think they're pretty much set with what they've got right now. I could see them making an addition at the trade deadline, but right now I think they're going to go into the season with what they have. Usually you do see some tinkering at the back end of the roster at the end of spring training. They might do something like that. But I think largely that the Astros are pretty much set with what they got. If your question is, do you think the Astros are a surprise team for 2025? No, because again, there would be a team that I would expect to get into the postseason. That wouldn't be a surprise to me. The surprise to me would be the Astros getting bounced and not making the postseason for the first time in what feels like almost a decade there. Glad he lost all that weight. Good for Lynn. Same thing for me, man. I'm just glad for his health that he's doing well. Let me just double check X to make sure we're not missing any other updates here. They're talking more about the Rangers rotation taking a hit with John Gray going down. Nothing else there. Let me check MLB trade rumors, see if they have corrected their information on Molly, and they have not. So, again, be careful with what you read on some of these sites. Sometimes they don't have the most up-to-date stuff. Let's see here. Talking about Spencer Turnbull or Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn. I mean, Lance Lynn does look like he's on the doorstep with the Cubs, but maybe they go back that direction. But Rangers look like they'll start with John Gray on the injured list along with Bradford, and that means you have two openings in that rotation for Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. Let us know what you guys think they'll be able to do this year for the Rangers. I'm excited to see what the young Vanderbilt kids really can do for this Rangers rotation, and I really hope they don't blow out their arms because of how many innings they're going to be asking out of those two. I really would like them to have some insulation from the number of innings that they're asked to throw this year, so I would like to see them add a veteran of some type down the road here to kind of help out with the stress as far as the number of innings that is needed out of that group there. But we'll see what happens. Any random guys Rangers could trade for besides Monty? I really like the relief pitcher Rollison that threw for the Rockies today. His stuff looked really good. That'd be a bullpen arm I'd be interested in. Starting pitching, maybe go to the Marlins and see if you can pry out a Cabrera or something along those lines. I would prefer to do something a lot cheaper than that. Maybe you go to the Brewers and say, hey, you don't have a lot of starting pitching depth right now anyway, but we'll take one of those guys and we'll give you Ezekiel Duran and just see if we can get him. Do I think that's likely? No. I think they would be a team that would be looking for starting pitching, not looking to lose it. But I do think Montgomery, as far as trades, might be the most obvious answer. I think free agency, if they decide to go that route, might be the easiest way to go, though. I do think they'll add some form of starting pitching via trade as we get closer to the trade deadline. Rafe, that's why I said re-sign Urena. He ain't the best, but gives you his all. True. But I think he wanted to be on a major league roster. And I don't think the way the roster was set up for the Rangers that he would have been guaranteed a major league spot in that bullpen. Now, of course, you'd obviously make the club. But right now, he's already signed with the New York Mets. And I don't think he would have signed the deal when he would have only been on a minor league deal with maybe a $2 million contract with the big leagues or at the big league level if he made the opening day roster. But ultimately, he's now a Met. No use crying over spilled milk, so we'll see what happens there. Ethan, Gibson or Lance Lynn to Texas? I wouldn't be surprised if they did add a veteran of some type, especially on a minor league deal. I do think they'll go with the young starting pitching first, but they really are exhausting their early depth in the season. Bradford, again, should be back in a couple of weeks. They'll have more depth once he is healthy. You got to hope Molly's going to be healthy, and hopefully DeGrom and so forth stay healthy as well. And don't forget, you still have Dane Dunning as a long relief option in the bullpen that has been a starter and can hold down the fort if necessary as well. I do expect Dane Dunning to get in the neighborhood of probably 10 starts this year. Do not be surprised if he is called upon to be one of the starters in this rotation if they want to keep Jack Leiter in the bullpen to kind of keep him down as far as the number of innings that they give him early in the year, and then have use those innings that they save up early in the year at the end of the year or in the postseason. Same thing with Kumar Rocker if they decide to put Dunning in the rotation instead and do it that way. Again, you got to get creative with these bullpens and with these rotations as you try to manage these injuries there. Alrighty, appreciate you guys joining us. Be sure to join us tomorrow night as we discuss some surprise teams for 2025 in the negative direction. Teams that we think really highly of, that should do really well, that ultimately might surprise us and ultimately fall flat on their face. We'll discuss all of that and more tomorrow night. Hopefully we'll have some more updates on the Rangers' plans with John Gray, looking like he's going to be put on the 60-day IL. The one good thing there is that they have a couple of good bullpen arms that are on minor league deals, that then if you put John Gray on the 60-day injured list, that would keep him out through the end of May. And again, I'm expecting him probably back mid-June, somewhere in there. And then you still have the bullpen flexibility that you can bring somebody up like Joe Barlow. He's looked really impressive, throwing a little bit differently than what he did with his the last time with the Texas Rangers bullpen. But excited to see what he can do this year. But welcome in, Lucas. Appreciate you guys joining us. If you guys want to hit that like button one more time for me, it would really mean a lot to us. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like button, we are currently at 8 likes. Let's see if we can bump that number up. But appreciate you guys joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night. I don't know if I'll be able to watch live for most of the week, but hope you have some good days streaming. I'll try to watch the uploads. Thank you, Rafe. I'll be kind of a one-man ship next week anyway, so you might see a little bit longer of a delay getting the video started. As far as instead of a 2-minute time gap, it might be stretched to 3.5, 4 minutes as I try to get everything set. Since my help will be going to visit her family, unfortunately, so it'll be a one-man show next week. So I apologize for any inconveniences for you guys, but we're still going to keep up with our show anyway, every single night, MLB Hot Stove Daily. You can expect it here. As we get closer to Major League season, we are going to be coming out with a new schedule for a lot of different things that are going to be coming your way. Our talk show will start on Sunday as well, where we discuss all four major sports and any other sports headlines that just come across the table. But we'll probably discuss the way the Mavericks roster sits right now after they lose another player for the entire season who looks like he might be ending his NBA career and heading back to Australia next season anyway. But we'll be back tomorrow night to kind of get some updates on John Gray, and hopefully we have no other significant injury news to discuss. And again, Sunday will begin our talk show. But appreciate you guys joining us. Stay safe out there, everybody.